Masechet Shevuot, Daf Mem Tet. We begin and complete the final chapter of Masechet Shevuot, a very short chapter. Mishnah teaches, Arba'a shomerin hen, shomer chinam, ve'ashoel, noseh sachar, ve'hasocher. There are 4 types of watchmen or baileys. One of them does not get paid, and so he has the least amount of responsibility. A shoel, he borrows an item without paying for it, so since he has the most benefit, he has the most responsibility. And in the middle is someone who is paid to watch it, or a renter who does use it but pays to use it. So he is getting some benefit. Shomer chinam nishba ala kol, v'ashoel meshalem et hakol. Starting with the 2 extremes, someone who watches something for free, he just has to make a vow that he did not steal it himself, eat it himself, was purposefully damaged it, or was negligent, as long as he wasn't any of those things, and it was simply lost or stolen or damaged or it died. He just makes a vow, and he does not have to pay. Whereas the shoel, the borrower, he has to pay for anything that happens to it, whether it is stolen or lost or damaged or it died. Even if it's broke by accident, he is responsible. Noseh sachar ve'hasocher nishbain ala shiburav ala shibuyav al hameta u'mishalamin et habeda ve'tegeneva. Whereas someone who's paid to watch it, or a renter, they split down the middle. They have to vow, and then they will not have to pay if the item, let's say it's an animal, is either injured or taken captive or dies. So those things, it's not out of their hands. They do have to vow that that's what happened to it, and then they don't have to pay. However, if it got lost or stolen, then they are responsible to pay. Amar leshomer chinam, hechan shori. And now we're bringing this in because it relates to a Shevuah. If someone, the owner, tells a shomer chinam, where is my ox? Amar lo met, oh, it died. Vehu nishbad o nishba o nignav o avad. Now he swears that it in fact died, but really it didn't die. It was injured or taken captive or stolen or lost. Now he will be patur either way. It's not really clear why he lied, but for whatever reason he did. Now he is not liable whether it died or any of these other things happened to it. Therefore, although he made a false vow, he is not liable to Shevuot Pikadon, because here's the big principle that we're going to be seeing 100 examples of. Shevuot Pikadon, one is only liable if one lies in a way that will save him money. He has a monetary gain. Then he's liable to bring a korban and to pay the principal plus a fifth. Also, it's only if he admits on his own that he lied. But if there is no gain, and in this case, it doesn't matter. He wasn't going to pay anyway, but he did lie, so he is patur. Or we're going to bring all the possibilities. Nishbad, really it was injured. That's what he said. He said it was injured, but really, vehu shemet or nishba or nignav or avad. But actually something else happened to it. It wasn't injured, it died. Or it was taken captive or stolen or lost. Or if the guy says, the shomer says, nishba, it was taken captive. But that wasn't the truth. In fact, vehu shemet or nishbad or nignav or avad. In fact, it died, or was injured, or was stolen, or was lost. Or if the shomer says nignav, it was stolen, v'hu shemet or nishbar or nishba or avad, but in fact it died, or was injured, or was taken captive, or was lost. Avad, the shomer swore that it was lost, but that wasn't true. V'hu shemet or nishbar or nishba or nignav, but in fact it was it died, or it was injured, or was taken captive, or was stolen. And then the owner says, Mashpiacha ani, I make you swear. And the shomer says, V'amar amen. He says amen. So he makes a vow, and the vow is technically a false vow. It's true. The Gemara later will discuss whether he's liable or not for a Shevuot bitui, just for saying a false vow. Anytime you say a vow about the future or about the past, I ate yesterday, but really you didn't eat, so you'd be liable for a Shevuot bitui. So he might be liable for a Shevuot bitui just for lying. That will be a machloka that we'll see. But right now we're focusing on Shevuot HaPikadon. As Shevuot HaPikadon, he is not liable because he is not responsible to pay whether he told the truth or told the falsehood. The falsehood that he said would make him not liable to pay, but he wouldn't have been liable to pay even if he told the truth, and therefore there is no liability to korban for Shevuot HaPikadon. Hechan shori, another case of shomer chinam. The owner comes and says, "Where's my ox?" Amar lo, "Eni yodea ma atasach." I don't know what you're talking about. I never got an ox from you. והוא שמת או נשבר או נשבע או נגנב או אבד. משפיע חני ואמר אמן, patur. Now, he was telling a lie. Really, he did have the ox and was a shomer for it, but in fact, something did happen to it, not in his control, and it died or was injured or was taken captive or was stolen or was lost. And the owner says, "I want you to swear." And he says, "Yes, I swear." He is also patur for the same reason. Even though he denied the whole thing altogether, that even though he never saw this ox at all, and that is a lie, but if he told the truth, he also wouldn't have to pay. And so here again, the vow that is a lie is not changing anything monetarily. He's not gaining anything from it. And so he is not liable to bring a korban asham. Hechan shori amar lo avad, mashpiacha ani v'amar amen, v'hadim medinoto shachalo, meshalem et hakeren, hoda me'asmo, meshalem keren v'chomesh ve'asham. And now here's a case where he will be liable. If the owner says to the shomer chinam, "Where is my ox?" And he says, "Oh, sorry, it got lost." And he says, "You swear?" He says, "Yes, I swear it got lost." But there are witnesses that say that he consumed it himself. The shomer stole it for himself and used it for himself. Either literally ate it or consumed it in some way. He's the one that actually stole it. In that case, really, he's liable to pay. And by lying, he's trying to get out of paying. That is a case of Shevuot HaPikadon, where he is liable. So, he is liable, and depends what happens. If he did not admit to it, then he has to pay the principal. If the shomer did admit to it on his own, then he pays the principal plus a fifth and asham. You'll wonder, why is it worse if he admits to it? Shouldn't it be better? The answer is that actually being able to pay the principal plus a fifth and an asham is a privilege because you can get atonement thereby. So if you admit on your own, okay, I made a mistake, I realized my mistake, I should not have made a vow, I was trying to get out of paying, and I said it was stolen, but really, I said it was lost, but really I took it myself, I want to come clean, then he has the opportunity to bring a korban and thereby get atonement. But if he doesn't admit it on his own, and it's the witnesses that call him out on it, then it's true, he pays only the principal, but also he does not get atonement. The next case, also involving a shomer chinam, is Hechan shori v'amar lo nignav, mashpiacha ani v'amar amen. The owner says, "Where is my ox?" And the shomer chinam says, "It was stolen." And the owner says, "I want you to swear." And the watchman says, "Yes, indeed, I swear." But there are witnesses that say that the shomer himself is the one who stole it. In this case, mishalem tashlume kefel. The watchman has to pay double. The reason is because he claimed it was stolen, but it was lying. In fact, it was not stolen. He stole it himself. So the Torah considers it as if he actually is the thief. In fact, he is the thief. But it's because he claimed that it was stolen, and that was not true. Unlike if he claimed something else, then he wouldn't pay double. But by falsely claiming it was stolen, we impose the penalty of double on the shomer himself. That's if he doesn't come clean himself. If he does admit it on his own, before the witnesses, then he has an opportunity for teshuvah, for atonement, and he pays the principal and only a fifth, and an asham for having a false vow. This is a Shevuot HaPikadon, where he was trying to get out of it. Really, he was guilty. The Shevuot HaPikadon was trying to save him money, and therefore he is liable. Amar le'echad bashuk, hechan shori sheganavta, hu omer lo ganavti, v'adim ha'idin oto sheganavo, meshalem tashlume kefel, tavach umachar, meshalem tashlume arba'a v'chamisha. Now, not a shomer chinam, a similar case, someone goes to a person in the marketplace, and the owner says, I know you. You stole my ox. Where is my ox that you stole? And the guy said, no, it wasn't me. I didn't steal it. But there are witnesses that say that this guy stole it. In that case, he will have to pay double, as is the case for any thief. And if he slaughtered it or sold it, then he will have to pay 4 times or 5 times. Ra'edim she'meshin uba'in, amar ganavti, אבל לא טבחתי ולא מכרתי, אינו משלם אלא קרן. If this thief saw that there were witnesses coming, he says, oh no, there are witnesses coming, they're going to testify against me, and then I'm going to have to pay a lot. So he immediately admits, I did steal it, but I did not slaughter it or sell it. Then he will only have to pay 1 because he admitted on his own. And anyone who admits on his own does not have to pay any fine. So he pays no fines, only the principal. Amar le'shoel. Now we get to the second type of Beili. Someone tells a borrower, Hechan shori, I lent you an ox. Where is it? Amar lo met. Sorry, it died. Now he's responsible if it dies. Vehu shenishbad o nishba o nignav o avad. But it was a lie. In fact, it was injured, or it was captured, or stolen, or lost. Now, he's going to be responsible either way. So his vow is not changing at all his monetary responsibility. In all these cases also, he is not liable to bring a korban for Shevuot Pikadon. And so the next case, we're going to go through all of the possibilities. Nishbad. The borrower says, sorry, it was injured, but it wasn't injured. In fact, it died or was taken captive or stolen or lost. Nishba, he said it was taken captive, but it wasn't true. But in fact, it died or was injured, or was stolen, or was lost. Nignav, he said it was stolen. But in fact, it died, or was injured, or was taken captive, or was lost. Avad, he claimed in the vow that it was lost. But in fact, it died, or was injured, or was taken captive, or was stolen. Mashbiacha ani v'amad amen patur. And the owner says, I want you to swear to it. And he says, amen, I do swear to it. In all these cases, he is not liable because, again, a shoel is liable in all these cases. No matter if the reality is he's liable, and what he lied, his lie also makes him liable. So his lie did not save him any money. Therefore, he is not liable to bring a korban asham for Shevuot Pikadon. Hechan shori, an alternate case, he says, where is my ox? Amar lo eni yodeya ma'atasach. And the borrower says, I don't know what you're talking about. Vehu shemet o nishbad o nishba o nignav o ne'evad. But the truth is that the borrower did get this ox, and it died, or was injured, or was taken captive, or stolen, or lost. Mashbiach ani v'amad amen. I want you to swear to it. And the borrower says, I do swear to it. This time he is liable because his vow was trying to save him money. If in fact we trust him, if we would believe his lie, he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I never got an ox from you. I never borrowed anything from you. Then he would not be liable. So since in his vow, he's trying to be not liable, but is false. That's why he has to bring a korban if he admits to it. Because, in fact, no matter what actually happened to it, the fact that he got it, doesn't matter whether it died or stolen or anything, a shoel is liable. Next case, omer lenoseh sachar vesocher. Someone tells a paid watchman or a renter, hechan shori v'amar lo met, vehu shenishbar o nishba. Where is my ox? He said it died. In fact, it didn't die, it was injured, or it was taken captive, or nishbad. In fact, he says it was injured, but it's not true. V'hu shemet or nishba. In fact, it died or was taken captive. Nishba. He says it was taken captive, but that's not true. V'hu shemet or nishbad. But in fact, it died or was injured. In all these cases, he is patur because he doesn't have to pay anyway. A shomer sachar does not have to pay if it died on its own or was injured, and so he's making a vow from one category to another. But in all the categories, the truthful one and the one that he's lying and says it was, he's not liable to pay anyway. Since the vow is not changing the monetary status, he is not going to be liable to bring a korban. And now the next case is also, it doesn't change the monetary status, but in these, he is liable. So the next one is nignav v'hu she'avad. Avad v'hu she'nignav. He says it was stolen, but really it was lost. He says it was lost, but really it was stolen. In these two cases, he's liable to pay whether it was lost or stolen. And so, since it doesn't matter, and it's not changing the legal status, because he's liable either way, Mashbiach ha'ani, if he says, I meant you to swear, V'amar amen, he says, I swear, patur, he is not liable. Okay, sticking with the renter, met or nishbad or nishba, v'hu shenignav or avad. If he says, he says, where's my ox? And he says, it died, or it was injured, or it was captured. But really, it was stolen or lost. So he's claiming that he's not responsible and vowing to it, but really he is responsible to pay for it. Mashbiach ani, I want you to swear. V'amar amen, he says, yes, I swear. He is liable because here, in reality, he is responsible to pay, but his vow is trying to get out of paying. So that's Shevuot HaPikadon, which is liable. Avad o nignav, v'hu shemet o nishbad o nishba, meshbiach ha'ani v'amar amen, patur. If he says it was lost or stolen, by saying that, he's making himself responsible to pay. But in fact, it was a lie. Why someone would lie to make himself responsible, I don't know, but let's say he did. Because in fact it died, or was injured, or was taken captive. So therefore, actually, he is not liable. He swears falsely about it. He is not liable because, although it's changing the status of the monetary claim, in fact, he was not liable to pay, but his vow makes him liable to pay. That also does not count as Shevuot HaPikadon. It only counts as Shevuot HaPikadon if he really is liable, but his lie makes him seem not liable. As the Mishnah concludes, Zehakelal, here's the general rule. Kol meshane mechova lechova mipetor lepetor mipetor lechova patur. Mechova liftor chayav. Anyone who changes, lies in a vow, and he's shomer, if he changes, in reality, he is liable, and his lie also liable, or in reality, he's not liable, and his lie makes him also not liable, or in reality, he's not liable, and according to his lie, he's making himself liable. In all these cases, he does not have to bring a korban asham. But if he really is liable, and by lying, he's trying to make himself get out of paying, then he is liable to bring a korban. Another way of formulating the general rule, anyone who makes a vow to be lenient on himself, to not have to pay, then he is liable to bring a korban. But if he makes a lie to be stringent with himself, to pay when he doesn't have to pay, then he is not liable to bring a korban. Gemara. Man tena arba'a shomerin, amar Rav Nachman, amar Rabba bar Abu, Rabbi Meir he. The Gemara asks, who is the Tana that says that there are 4 categories of watchmen? Rav Nachman says, in the name of Rabba bar Abu, that it is Rabbi Meir. He's the author. Amar le Rav Nachman, Mika Tana delet le arba'a shomerin. So Rav challenges Rav Nachman. What do you mean this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir? Is there another opinion? Is there any other Tana that says there are not 4 categories? It should be everybody. Why are you saying it's Rabbi Meir specifically? Rav Nachman answers, Amar le, hachika min alach. Man tana damar socher kenose sachar dameh. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Abu, Rabbi Meir he. Rather, Rav Nachman explains, this is what I was trying to say. Who is the Tana that says that a renter has the same halacha as a paid watchman? And Rav Nachman says, name Rabba bar Abu, that's Rabbi Meir. V'had Rabbi Meir hold on, doesn't Rabbi Meir say the opposite? Ditnan socher kesad meshalem, Rabbi Meir omer keshomer chinam. We have a baraita that teaches, that asks socher, a renter, and what category is he in terms of payment? And Rabbi Meir says he's like a shomer chinam, that he does not pay, he's not so liable. Rabbi Yehuda omer kenose sachar. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says that a socher is like a noseh sachar, that a renter is the same as a paid watchman. So really it should be Rabbi Yehuda, not Rabbi Meir. Rabba bar Abu ipechatane. And the answer is Rabba bar Abu, who Rav Nachman was quoting, has this baraita in the opposite version, where Rabbi Meir is the one that says that a socher is like a noseh sachar. And if you have that version, then the Tana of our Mishnah is in fact Rabbi Meir. Now we ask, what do you mean? We had just said that actually everybody agrees there's 4 categories, but actually there's only 3 categories. But we mentioned them. There's the one extreme shomer chinam, the other extreme shoel, and then the others are both in the middle, and they have the same shomer, socher and noseh sachar are the same law. So really it's 3 categories. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak arba shomrin v'dinehen shelosha. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak explains, in fact, there are 4 types of shomrim, but there are only 3 categories of laws, because 2 of the shomrim are the same, no matter what you say about socher. Either it's like shomer chinam or it's like noseh sachar. So it's true. There are 4 categories in terms of responsibility, but there are 3 categories in terms of responsibility, but there are 4 types of shomrim altogether. Amar l'shomer chinam v'chule, hechan shori v'chule, amar l'echad b'shuk v'chule, amar l'shomer v'chule, hechan shori, amar lo, eni yodea ma ata sach v'chule. We're quoting a whole bunch of the cases that are in the Mishnah. We're quoting all the cases where one would be not liable for the vow, because their lie would make them, it was the same status as the truth, meaning that their lie is not saving them any money. And therefore, they are not liable in terms of Shevuot HaPikadon. Okay, regarding all these cases, Amara v'chulan peturim mishvat shomrin v'chayavin mishum Shevuot bitui u'shmel amar af peturim mishum Shevuot bitui. Rav says, although all of them are not liable in terms of Shevuot shomerin as a shomer or Shevuot HaPikadon, so none of them have to bring that korban asham, but they all did lie. They said, where's the thing? I don't know anything about it, but did know something about it. They said that it was stolen, but really it was lost. So all these cases, they are liable for a simple lie as a Shevuot bitui. They have to bring korban olev yored. Shemuel, however, says that they are not liable even for Shevuot bitui. They're liable to neither one. Why is that? Let's explain. What's at the essence of their machloket? Shemuel savar le'eta be'lehaba, v'Rav savar ite be'la vehen. Shemuel says, in general, that in order to be liable for a Shevuot bitui, it has to be a vow that you could potentially formulate both in the past tense and in the future tense. In this case, if someone makes a vow that it was lost, but really it was stolen. Okay, so he says it was lost. That's talking about the past. Some time ago, it was lost. Can you formulate that in the future and say, I vow that next week is going to be lost? You can't. You don't know it's going to be lost. You don't know it's going to be stolen. You can't say it's going to be injured or die on its own. So since you can't make a vow, it's not in your hands to make that happen. Therefore, since you can't formulate it in the future, you're not liable even if it's about the past. And that's why Shemuel says that when someone lies about a Shevuot HaPikadon and it doesn't change the status of the monetary amount that he's going to have to pay, then not only does he not is he not liable for Shevuot HaPikadon, he's also not liable for Shevuot bitui. Rav, however, says, now, in general, he has a different requirement in order to be liable for Shevuot bitui. Doesn't matter if it's past and future formulation. It just has to be able to be formulated in the positive and the negative. And here you can do that. They'll say the guy swore that it was injured. Well, could he swear that it wasn't injured? He could. You can formulate it in the positive and the negative. It might be either true or not true, but you can. It does make sense to formulate such a thing in the positive and in the negative. It was stolen. It was not stolen, and so on. I did know something. I didn't know something about it, and therefore, since it can be formulated in the positive and the negative, therefore one is liable if he says a lie. Ditmar, Sheva shezarak ploni sirod layam, Sheva shelo zarak, Rav amar chayav, Ushmel amar patur. Hold on, we already know that Rav and Shemuel have this. They have their opinions, and why do we need it to be taught again? Why did Rav and Shemuel express their opinions in this case and in another case that we saw back on Daf 25, where the example there is someone who says, I vow that that person, so that Mr. A is making a vow that Mr. B threw a stone into the sea. And either it's true or not true. Or he made a vow that that person did not throw a stone into the sea. And let's say it's not true. So Rav says he is liable. Shemuel says he is not liable. Why? Rav amar chayav di'ita bela vehen. Shemuel amar patur deleta belehaba. Rav says he is liable. Let's say he says, I saw that person throw a stone into the sea yesterday. And it's a lie. Really, he didn't throw a stone into the sea yesterday. That he's liable because it can be formulated both in the positive and the negative. I didn't see him. I did see him throw a stone. Or I saw him throw a stone. I saw him not throw a stone. So it can be formulated both ways, and therefore he's liable if he lies. But Shemuel says you have to be able to formulate in the future. Can someone make a vow? I vow that that person will throw a stone tomorrow. He cannot formulate that because it's not in his hands. It's not about himself. It's about someone else. And he has no idea and cannot control if that person is going to throw a stone tomorrow. And therefore, that's invalid. It's invalid to formulate it in the future. Then the one is not liable, even if he does it in the past. So I already know their basic principles. Why do I need to say it here again? Siricha, di ashme'inan beha ka'amar Rav. I need both of them, because if I only had this case here of throwing a stone, I might think that in this case, Rav says one is liable, mishum de benafshe kamishtaba, because he's making a vow of his own accord. He decided, I'm going to make a vow about that person throwing a stone, and it was a lie, so he's liable. Aval behach de bedina mashbi'a le ema modi le lishmuel. But in the case of a shomer, where the oath is being administered by the judges, there I might have thought that Rav would agree with Shemuel that one is not liable. Kedid be ameh damar be ameh. Kol shivua she'edeni mashbi'in ota en chayvin aleh mishum Shevuot bitui. Because we thought that Rav maybe would follow the opinion of Rabbi Ameh. For Rabbi Ameh teaches that any time there's a vow that is administered by judges, the judges tell the shomer, oh really, it was lost? Okay, you have to make a vow. Since the judges administered the oath, one is not liable in such a case for Shevuot bitui. So I might have thought that Rav would agree with that principle, and that's why I need this case here in our Mishnah to teach that Rav says one is liable even in the case where the court administers it. And if I only had this case here regarding the shomerim, I might think that this is where Shemuel says patur because it's an oath administered by judges, and so in that case we follow to be ameh. And because it's administered by judges, there is no liability for Shevuot bitui. But in the case of the stone, that someone else threw the stone, then I might think that Shemuel would say chayav, like Rav. And that's why I need that case as well. Gufa, amar Rabbi Ameh, kol Shevuah she'dayanin mashbi'in ota, en ba mishum Shevuot bitui. Shene'emar, o nefesh ki tishaba, lebate bisfatayim me'atzmo. Let's analyze this statement of Rabbi Ameh further. He says, Rabbi Ameh says that any vow that is administered by judges, one is not liable for Shevuot bitui. Even if he lies, he doesn't bring a korban oleh v'yored for that. Because the pasuk says, if a person lies with the utterance of his lips, that means on his own, with the utterance of his own lips. If he decides by his own free will that he's going to make this lie, then he is liable for a korban oleh v'yored. But if the judges tell him to, then he's not liable. Kideresh lakish dameresh lakish ki mishtamesh ba'arba leshonot I dilma ela deha. And this midrash of Rabbi Ameh follows the methodology of Resh Lakish, who says that the word ki has 4 different meanings. It can mean if, perhaps, rather, and as. And over here we're applying the meaning of if. So it's saying, o nefesh, a person, if he makes a vow with the utterance of his lips on his own. Only if he does that, then he's liable. Otherwise, he's not liable. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Kulan Peturin, Shevuot Shomrin, Vechayavin, Mishum Shevuot Bitui. Rabbi Elazar disagrees with Rabbi Ameh. And he says, all these cases, they might be patur from Shevuot Shomrin because their vow does not change their financial obligation, but they are liable regarding Shevuot Bitui because they said a lie. Chutz me eni yodeya ma'atasach de shoel ugnevav abeda de noseh sachar v'shebesocher shu chayav shareh kefaro mamon, except for, and then he brings cases where one is liable for Shevuot Shomrin. In other words, in all these cases, no matter what, they are liable for Shevuot Bitui, whether or not it changes the legal, the monetary obligation. That's for sure. So in all these cases that we were talking about above, that were listed, one would not be liable for Shevuot Shomrim, but would be liable Shevuot Bitui. But in the following cases, one is liable, in fact, to both. If someone says, I don't know what you're talking about regarding Shoel. So since he's a Shoel, he's actually liable no matter what happens. And he says, I never got anything from you, trying to get out of it. He's trying to be lenient upon himself. Or if a noseh sachar or socher say that it died on its own, but really it was lost or stolen, in which case they are liable and they're trying to get out of it. In those cases, they are liable also to Shevuot Shomrin or Shevuot HaPikadon because they are trying to get out of paying. Hadran alach arba shomrin useli kala masechet Shevuot hazakim uberuchim.